It was Donald Trump that turned that around. It's the party. Doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your sexual preference. It matters.
You will lose. Your children will be ashamed of you, and they will disavow you.
All of that vitriol, all that hot populist rhetoric, political violence, and even worse, white supremacist terror.
No, this is the topic. The topic is,
can you answer the question?
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we are going to be reviewing a fascinating debate from 2018 between Steve Bannon and David Frum on the Monk Debates platform. The proposition for this is the future of the Western world liberal or populist? Obviously, Bannon is taking the populist route, and the way that this unfolds with hindsight in mind is actually very, very interesting. So with that, we're going to get into the first bit where they do a poll of the audience. So check this out.
How is public opinion divided in this room? Can we see those results up on the screen? There you have it. 28% of you agree, 72% of you disagree. An interesting start.
Okay, so 28% populist on Steve Bannon's side and 72% liberal on Frum's side. The audience is well and truly against Bannon, and you're going to see that. They heckle him constantly throughout this, but you're going to want to make sure you stick around and see the final poll results. So with that, let's get into Bannon's opening statement.
I want to thank the people of Toronto, the Monk family, for hosting this, having me tonight, and for the men and women outside who are exercising their freedom of speech rights to protest. It's not a question of whether populism's on the rise and populism's going to be the political future. The only question before us is it going to be populist nationalism or populist socialism? To understand the velocity, the intensity, the depth of the populist revolt on a global basis, we have to go back to the beginning, what Hollywood would call the inciting incident. I want to take you back to September 18th, 2008, Washington, D.C., the Oval Office. I think it's 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. President Bush, David's...
We respect your right to free speech, but we have, if I'm correct, audience, we have 2,800 people who want this debate to go on. So can I have a round of applause, please, for this debate to proceed? Thank you. Let's have a loud round of applause. Thank this woman for her free speech rights. We appreciate that.
Okay, so he says a loud round of applause for her freedom of speech rights. Yeah, just give them a round of applause and cheer for them. I'm sure that normally works out great when trying to deal with these people. And if they think that Steve Bannon is an enemy of wokeness, then I would love to see some of these people's reaction to what Trump is doing in office at the moment. Check out this story here from Ground News. Hegseth orders end to race consideration in admissions at military service academies. One of the cool features of Ground News is that you can see how it's being reported from left, center, and right. And you can see on the left here, they're reporting it as Hegseth escalates targeting of race, gender in military's academy settings. USA, Pentagon orders removal of books from military libraries. And then on the right from Fox News, Pete Hegseth directs military academies that all future admissions will be based solely on merit. And from the Washington Times, Pentagon directs military to pull library books that address diversity, anti-racism, gender issues. Not sure about you guys, but not something that I would consider a high priority for the military. And the great thing about Ground News, guys, is that they pull all of these different sources from all around the internet and put them all in one place, and it saves you the headache of having to go to all of these different websites. You can see how the story is being reported from across the spectrum. And what's even better is that Ground News is offering Rattlesnake TV listeners a massive 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use. All you've got to do is go to ground.tv ground.news/rattlesnake. That's ground.news/rattlesnake, or hit this QR code on the screen and start your Vantage Plan subscription today. And not only is it great value, but if you sign up to Ground News, you are also supporting a company that helps independent creators like myself to survive. With that, let's get back into the video.
If I have your attention on the stage, we're going to follow a policy tonight. This person has been cautioned. If she does not stop, she will unfortunately be asked to leave this debate. So, Madame, it is your decision. You can stay or you can go. What are we going to do? Okay, no, sorry. You're still engaging. Officers, we're going to move forward with our plan. If we can please remove the person from the hall.
Turns out when you applaud these narcissists, it actually doesn't stop them from doing what they were doing. And the best thing to do is just to kick them out immediately. Anyways, let's get back to Bannon's speech.
We're in the Oval Office. Secretary, or head of the Federal Reserve, Bernanke, Hank Paulson, Secretary of the Treasury, walk in, tell the President of the United States, by 5 o'clock this afternoon, by close of business, we need $1 trillion cash infusion into the American financial system. If we don't get it, the American financial system will implode in 72 hours, the world financial system 3 days after that, and we will have global anarchy and chaos. The greatest enemies of the United States, Mussolini, Hitler, Tojo, the Soviet Union, Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. Nobody's ever brought the United States to its knees like that day. Who did that? Who's responsible for that? The populist? Donald Trump? No. The elites. The financial, the corporate, the permanent political class that runs Washington, D.C. That's who did it. What was their solution? To create money and bail themselves out. On the day that happened, the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve was $880 billion. When Donald Trump took the oath of office, January 20th, 2017, it was $4.5 trillion. We flooded the zone with liquidity, just like the Bank of Tokyo, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank. The party at Davos, the elites, bailed themselves out, afraid of some sort of deflationary death spiral. That's not a free bailout. There's a corollary to that. Savings accounts are zero. Pension funds have the biggest gap in history. You can't underwrite a bond in the United States because you only get, for a public school or waterworks, you get 2%. The little guy would bear the burden of that. If you've owned assets, intellectual property, stocks, real estate, hedge fund, name it, in the last 10 years, you had the greatest run in history. For everybody else, a disaster. 50% of American families can't put $400 of cash on their hands on cash, right? I hate the elites. You got to lay that down there. 60% of our jobs are subsistence jobs. It wasn't Donald Trump. It wasn't the populist. The populist movement, the nationalist movement, is not a cause of that. It's a product of that. Donald Trump's presidency is not a cause of that. It's a product of that. When I stepped into the campaign in mid-August, the central number is not how far he's behind, is that 70% of the American people believed for the first time in our history that the country was in decline and the elites were okay with that. That managed decline was the wave of the future. Whether it's in education, the southern border, China, Korea, Iran, our education, our health system. It was Donald Trump that turned that around. It's the party. This is a very tough crowd. We'll have plenty of time to go through this.
Okay, so they're laughing at him for saying that Donald Trump is reversing managed decline. Well, what is managed decline? Let's go through it. Managed decline refers to a deliberate or a passive policy approach in which a nation's leadership accepts or facilitates a gradual loss of influence, whether that be global influence, competitiveness, or cultural confidence. And specifically what it does is it prioritizes the interests of the elites and the economic few as opposed to a national resurgence. In the US's case, this is the political class, this is the financial class, etc., the swamp as we call them. The UK is another great example of a place that is in managed decline. They have been in managed decline essentially since the empire started shrinking, and now they're at the point where in a few generations, or maybe even before that, they won't be the UK anymore. Donald Trump has reversed America's managed decline by reasserting national sovereignty and economic self-determination through bold and often disruptive policy shifts. Things such as challenging the bipartisan consensus on free trade by renegotiating NAFTA to USMCA, imposing tariffs to protect American manufacturing, and prioritizing energy independence, turning the US into a net energy exporter. Also, during his first term, he turned the US foreign policy approach away from endless wars and globalism. Touch wood, let's hope that that continues. And he also pushed countries within NATO to increase their defense spending so that they're not footing the whole bill the entire time, the United States that is, and has turned his attention to actual adversarial powers. Domestically, his deregulatory push and tax reform aimed to stimulate business and investment and employment, particularly in the forgotten industrial regions. And even in the rhetoric, the America First, the Make America Great Again sort of rhetoric is intended to reignite American pride and American sovereignty. And it's not this sort of notion that the best days are behind them, but it's that the best days are in front of them. Let's continue.
The party at Davos, the scientific, managerial, engineering, financial, cultural elite that run the world, have left a financial wasteland and decoupled from the middle class and the working class throughout the world. That is why Salvini and Orban and Brexit and now Bolsonaro, it shouldn't be lost on you the day Captain Bolsonaro is elected is the day Angela Merkel will leave the stage. Trump's economic nationalism doesn't care about your race, your religion, your ethnicity, your color. Okay. I got a whole night to convert you. I saw the 28%. It doesn't. Doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your sexual preference. It matters. I said economic nationalism. Work with me.
Okay, so now they're laughing and they're heckling about Trump's economic nationalism and that it doesn't care about your race, gender, etc. And stick around for this particular topic because soon it's going to become pretty obvious that Bannon was absolutely right about this. And Trump actually has appealed to ethnic minorities despite the fact that at this time it was completely permissible to just call him racist about absolutely everything. The stats are against them now, but they still do it. But anyway, let's continue.
It cares if you're a citizen. Look at the results. Look at the results today. Lowest black unemployment in history, lowest Hispanic unemployment in 30 years, wages rising across the board, manufacturing jobs coming back. The populist nationalist message and its policies are working in the United States and it's spreading. The revolt in Europe and now in Latin America. And I get contacted every day from Asia, from Africa, from the Middle East. We're at the beginning of a new political revolution, and that is populism. The only question before us, is it going to be a populist nationalism that believes in capitalism and deconstructing the administrative state and giving the little guy a piece of the action and break up this crony capitalism of big corporations and big government? Or is it going to be a Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders type of populist socialism? Because the party at Davos and the elites have blown too many calls. Too many existential events. The rise of China. The $7 trillion spent on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The deregulation that led to the financial crisis in 2008. How the financial crisis was bailed out. Where we are today in this over-leveraged society. Because as you know, most of you in this room that work in finance, we're heading to another financial crisis. That is the question before us. What form of populism? And I hope tonight that the good people in Toronto will listen with open ears as we debate this topic. Thank you very much.
So the key part there for me is when Bannon brings up the populism of the future. The future is populism. It just depends which one. Is it going to be a Trump-style economic nationalism, or is it going to be a Bernie Sanders, Jeremy Corbyn-esque democratic socialism, that type of populism? And this has also aged very well, because now what do we see for the 2028 nominations for the Democratic Party? We see Bernie Sanders with AOC. Just the other day, she was actually leading the polls for the Democratic nominee of 2028. In the last few weeks, we've seen another globalist elected in Canada. We've seen the left also elected in Australia. So it's going the other way, unfortunately, in those countries. But in America, obviously, we saw Trump win a landslide victory. And I think in terms of Australia and Canada and the UK, etc., they're going to have to feel some extreme pain before they go down the economic nationalist path. Now on to Fromm's opening statements.
We are here to engage in the most important, the most dangerous challenge that liberal democratic institutions have faced since the end of communism. Steve Bannon is a figure from history, a very important person. He advised the President of the United States at a time when that future president was on his way to losing, and Steve Bannon helped to turn the campaign around. He has been an advisor to parties all across Europe, many of which hold power, as in Italy. He has been an advisor to the new president of Brazil. His Breitbart.com became an urgent force in American politics, transforming the way conservatism used to be into a new kind of political movement. And all of that is his work. So what do I hope to accomplish tonight by being here with him and engaging with him? First, I want to do three things. First, I want to speak to those who are genuinely undecided. There may not be so many, but you are important. And you may be wondering, does the kind of politics that Steve Bannon is speaking for and that President Trump articulates, does that politics offer me anything? Should I listen to it? And I'm here tonight to tell you, it offers you nothing. It does not care about you. It does not respect you. Steve Bannon has said, he said it to Michael Lewis in an interview in February, it is anger and fear that drives people to the polls. Anger and fear is what is offered, but nothing substantial. Second, in addition to those who are undecided, I want to speak to those of you who see President Trump's politics for what it is.
Guys, just a quick reminder to smash that like button if you'd like to help me out with these algorithms. And also, if you enjoy political debate content, commentary, and cultural analysis, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's get back to it.
And who resist it. I know how worried you are. I know the fear that many feel. And I stand here to reignite your faith and to speak to your courage. These symbols that many of us wear tonight on our lapels remind us that this is not the first time that democracy has faced thugs and crooks and bullies and would-be dictators and those who seek to build themselves up by tearing others down. This is not the first time that such people have puffed themselves as the wave of the future. They were wrong then, they are wrong now. We are here to show that we are what our parents and our grandparents were, and the challenges and threats they met and overcame, we can do the same. But the last group of people I want to speak to, and maybe this is the most important, I want to speak to those who see Trump politics for what it is and who support it anyway. Many people are excited by the joy of destruction, wrecking things they could never build, smashing things they do not understand. Steve Bannon has talked, is in the quote, of burning everything down. I'm sure he means that metaphorically. But we are nearing the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht, and there are people who understand burning non-metaphorically. And I'm here tonight to speak to all of them and to say, you will lose. You will lose. You have been winning. It has been 5 good years for those people, but you will lose. And when you lose, your children will be ashamed of you, and they will disavow you, and the future will not belong to you.
Actually, they won, tough guy, and not just in the US, but they're winning in other places as well. I mean, RIP Canada, Australia, and the UK, but in Europe, there is a huge push of economic nationalism and of populism happening in various different countries, and they are doing well at the European elections. And we see leaders like Meloni and Viktor Orban and the leaders in Poland, etc., making a big dent in European politics. These are all people that are closely ideologically allied to Steve Bannon in terms of national sovereignty, economic nationalism, strong borders, etc.
Let me give you some data about Poland and Polish democracy. The lowest unemployment in European Union is Poland. The highest GDP after COVID in European Union is Poland. One of the lowest debts in European Union is Poland. So don't give us this rubbish about the need of educated immigration, as we heard yesterday. We don't need your doctors. We don't need your engineers. Take them all and pay for them. We don't need them. You know why? Because there is zero terrorist attacks in Poland. Why? Because there is no illegal migration in Poland. So don't give me this look. Don't give me these arguments about the populism, because this is a fact. This is your data from Eurostat. So we don't need your engineers. We don't need your doctors. Take them. Do not teach us. Do not teach us about democracy, because we know what the democracy is. So learn from Poland, be like Poland.
And so these sort of liberal appeals to emotion just don't work anymore. Your children will be so angry at you. They'll be ashamed of you because you fought for your nation and for your sovereignty, and you fought to close your borders, and you fought against degeneracy and decadence in the establishment class. Give us a break, dude. Now let's get into some of the back and forth that happened.
My daughter, when she had her last command, she's back at West Point where she's on the staff. I think she had 15 non-commissioned officers, all of them African-American or Hispanic, right? I think something like a third or 40% of the United States Army today is made up of African-Americans alone. Donald Trump understands that. The deplorables understand that. Remember, one of the focuses we have, that's why black unemployment's so low, Hispanic unemployment's so low. One of the focuses we have as a populist movement is to take 25% of Bernie Sanders' movement, the economic nationalists in that. The focus, and I've said this from day one, it's to get a third to 40% of the African-American vote and a third to 40% of the Hispanic vote, the working class and middle class. That realignment with the Trump base will give us a governing majority for 50 years. It'll be like 1932. 1.8 million African Americans that voted for Barack Obama did not vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, they weren't prepared to vote for Donald Trump. And I think you're going to see the same thing. I mean, they may not be prepared to vote for Donald Trump now, but it's a process. I think that the Democratic Party is going to be in complete shock on Tuesday about the turnout of the African American vote. And I think the Hispanic vote.
If Donald Trump and his Republican Party, as it's been remade, not the McCain Party, not the Bush Party, not the party I believed in, if they believe that African Americans were going to vote for them, they would allow them to vote rather than bending heaven and earth to stop them. The outcome of the race in Georgia depends on whether black people are allowed to vote, is the 15th Amendment, and so many promises since then have said they should be allowed to. And the candidate there is doing everything he can to stop them. This is what happened in 2016. It's true. Black voter turnout dropped off dramatically between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Well, you might say that kind of makes sense. But something else was weird about that election, which is Hillary Clinton got fewer black people, or a smaller percentage of black people turned out to vote for Hillary Clinton than turned out to vote for John Kerry in 2004. Now, that's hard to explain unless you remember that between 2010 and 2016, a lot was done to make it much more difficult for those ethnic minorities in the United States to vote. And that is not happening by accident. It's a plan. And you cannot say that and this is why I keep returning to the theme, that populism is not a politics of some of the people. It is a politics of some of the people defining others of the people as not being of the people at all. And many of the people, including its free media institutions, are enemies to be sent pipe bombs to through the mail by supporters of Donald Trump.
So, on this topic, Bannon called it. In the 2016 election, Trump got 8% of the African American vote. In 2020, he got 12%, and in 2024, he got 13%. Furthermore, in 2016, he got 28% of the Hispanic vote. 2020, he got 32%. And then in 2024, he got 46% of the vote, more than Bannon even projected. Notably, he won 54% of Hispanic males as opposed to 34% in 2020, and 38% of females, up from 30 in 2020.
Oh my God, I will vote. Arriba, I will vote for Donald Trump.
So, Bannon was absolutely right about this. He hit the nail on the head. Now let's watch the next bit where the moderator does what moderators should never do and starts trying to virtue signal and pander to the studio audience, and actually tries to sway them, really. But we'll see in the closing poll how that works.
And that's a question we've got to address tonight, Stephen, which is the incredible hate that has seemed to have surfaced during these midterm elections. You know, you are the avowed architect of the Muslim travel ban in the United States. You participated in that. You are someone who
the travel ban that was upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States. That travel ban?
That travel ban.
Okay, thank you.
You are someone who's participated in rallies where your Democratic opponents are called evil, un-American. Are you really going to say to this audience tonight that all of that vitriol, all that hot populist rhetoric is not responsible for the spike that we've seen, and the numbers are real, in terms of political violence and, even worse, white supremacist terror?
By the way, did Hillary Clinton not 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago?
We're getting off topic here.
This is the topic. The topic
Can
is
you answer the question, though?
hang on. Nobody focus on.
Can you answer the question?
No.
Answer the question.
There is no correlation between. There's no correlation. None.
Explain.
No, there's just no correlation between the rhetoric of our movement and what has gone on. The first individual was obviously mentally ill, right, for many, many decades. He had done this back in the 1990s. In the horrible tragedy in Pittsburgh with the massacre, thought Trump was too close to the Jewish people because he had moved our embassy to Jerusalem. He thought Trump was too pro the Jewish people in the United States. He thought he was too anti-BDS. This guy was a hardcore anti-Semite, okay? And someone who hated the Jewish people. How can you lay that on Donald Trump? The rhetoric on the left is just as bad. The opposition party media will not report it. Please spare me, spare me, spare me. I just made a film called Trump at War. The first 5 minutes is a prologue. What I took is Don Lemon. I respect Don Lemon. I took Don Lemon's greatest hits when he looks into the camera and says, it's not Donald Trump's a racist, it's you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're a racist, the backers of Donald Trump. And I cut it with the footage of Antifa beating these people up. If you wear a red ball cap. And somebody said, where'd you get this footage? It's almost X-rated. I said, hey, this is shot by the cable networks. It's shot by people, it's just never played. It's always Trump's supporters that are the racists. It's always Trump's supporters that are the cause of all this. Yet they never talk about Antifa. They never talk about the intimidation. Look at what happened to Ted Cruz. Look what happened to Mitch McConnell. Do not sit here and tell me that the left and the Democratic Party and the instigators like Hillary Clinton and Holder. Holder said when they go low, kick them. That's never mentioned. The violence that's brought up by the Democratic left is far worse than is brought up by our movement.
So, once again, they can boo all they want, but what has happened since then? Well, this was in 2018. It was before 2020, 2021, and all of the political violence that came out of the left. It was before all of the Antifa extremism and violence. It was before BLM tried to burn down the country, and it was before politicians were bailing them out of prison and telling people to go and get in politicians' faces, when they were calling domestic terrorism the summer of love and just enabling it all. Once again, Bannon was correct, and the moderator was just way out of line there. Anyways, now let's have a look at what happened with the final poll results.
And we're going to allow you to use your clickers again. We're going to do the same thing we did last time. If you're in favor of the motion, be it resolved, the future of Western politics is populist, not liberal, press A or 1. If you're opposed to the motion, if you're against it, press 2 or B. While those votes are tabulating, let's just remind ourselves of where opinion in this hall started at the beginning of tonight's debate? If we can get those numbers up on the screen to see where we all started off. I think it was 28% in favor of the motion, 72% opposed, but we'll get those numbers up in a moment. And then we had a fairly large group of you in this hall that said that you could change your mind. There we are. 57% yes, 43% no. A pretty decisive result. Congratulations. Shake each other's hands for a superb debate.
So an incredible shift there. He went from 28% to shifting the room and getting the majority with 53%.
Gotcha, bitch.
And you can really see how salty the moderator was about this. He could not believe it.
A pretty decisive result.
But this is because of the way that Bannon went about it. He wasn't forceful, he was very genuine and sincere and made very good points. And his points aged really well. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Check out Ground News. All of those links will be just below there. And if you'd like to watch another one, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.